I'm Kevin Tidwell with HSPN Networks at the 2007 SEMA show. I'm at the Fidanza booth with Jeff. Jeff, we've got the Corvette here again this year. What's that all about? That's a sort of a surprise. No one brings the same car out twice.
It's not the same car though, Kevin. We've made a lot of changes to it. Last year, we basically had stock trim in it with the STS turbos, putting out about 600 horsepower. We've done some engine changes, some modifications to it, and we're actually putting out over 1,000 horsepower on this car.
Now, when you add more horsepower, don't you have to add other things to the car to handle it? Because there's a whole driveline behind the engine.
Absolutely. That kind of power does create a lot of challenges, especially for the clutch system. One of the challenges that we had was how do we take that power and transfer it from the motor to the street. The clutch that was in it was a single disc clutch, and it didn't have the ability to do that. So we had to look at the technology that was available, which wasn't very good. We had to make some modifications and improvements on it.
And what kind of improvements have you seen? It's a twin disc, but what's different about your twin disc?
One of the big advantages that we have, there are two shortcomings that were involved in a lot of the old traditionally styled twin discs. One was their rapid engagement. They were basically on-off switches, which made it very difficult to drive on the street. The second thing that we had was a lot of pedal pressure, which again equated to the fact that the release came very quickly, and because of that you had a lot of situations where it was very undrivable. The third factor, there's actually three, the third factor was the fact that they were very noisy. When you would push the clutch pedal in, there was a lot of rattling, a lot of vibration, and it sounded kind of like popcorn, and nobody liked them. Because again, when you're sitting at a traffic light, it's almost embarrassing.
It draws a lot of attention to you.
The wrong kind.
All right, we're over here at the product display. This is the twin disc. Tell me a little bit about it. What are the names for each part?
Okay, well the first component is our aluminum flywheel. That's something that Fidanza is most commonly known for, and one of the things that we pioneered a lot. That's part of our standard twin disc kit. So you've got an aluminum flywheel that reduces the weight about 60% off of the flywheel, thus allowing more horsepower to go through. Then you have your two clutch discs, which is actually the part that's connected to the transmission. That is where you have your friction material fastened to. Then on the flywheel, you have a friction plate. Here you have a floater cage with a floater plate in the middle, which is like the surface area on the flywheel, but it's in here. So now you've got the ability to have two clutch discs, which double the amount of friction that you're able to transfer that power through in the same amount of space that the standard clutch has. Down here you drop down to the pressure plate. The pressure plate is where your spring is and where the engagement and the disengagement of the clutch take place.
Okay, if we turn this to the side, we can actually see the pressure plate here. And when your clutch is engaged, this complete assembly is sandwiched together, correct?
Correct. It's squeezed together.
Okay, and when the clutch is disengaged, which happens when the throw-out bearing pushes against this pressure plate, that relieves the tension that's on this spring here, which separates this assembly.
That's correct, Kevin. What it does is you've got a diaphragm spring here, and your throw-out bearing rides on that diaphragm. And turn that just a little bit, okay? It pushes in. There's a pivot point in here where this is connected to the pressure plate part of this assembly. What that does is it pushes in here, and it just basically levers this way. So that releases the pressure that is being put, squeezing the whole assembly together. What happens then is that your flywheel and clutch assembly still spin, but there's no spinning of the transmission input shaft.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this doesn't suffer from the disadvantages of most twin discs, which was the rattling during disengagement. Is that what this spring here is for? Is this piece of metal?
Exactly. You have a floater plate inside this billet aluminum floater cage. Okay? What happens in most traditionally designed twin discs is this floats in there. When you disengage the clutch, it basically sits in there and rattles. With ours, we've actually fastened these two together so that when you disengage the clutch, that's a stationary object now and it doesn't rattle anymore. So now when you're sitting at a light, or you're waiting to launch, it's quiet.
Now, if someone wanted to learn more about the Fidanza clutch line or about the prices or applications, is there a website they can go to?
Absolutely. They can stop at our website, which is www.fidanza.com. We have a lot of our clutch information. We have a video on there that goes into a lot of clutch education, and all of our product application guides are on there as well.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you.